Jonah stood at the entrance of the run-down group home that had become his reluctant sanctuary, the peeling paint and dilapidated structure echoing his own internal disarray. The distant sounds of laughter from the other children bounced off the warped walls, swirling around him like whispers, yet he felt trapped in a bubble of solitude, a shadow that never truly belonged. Clutching his beloved sketchbook, its pages filled with vibrant drawings of immense parks, joyful gatherings, and families laughing together, he grappled with the profound loneliness that thickened the air around him. Within each sketch lay not just ink and paper, but the raw emotions of a boy longing for connection, a chance to be part of a world that seemed forever out of reach. Jonah felt as though he were fading. In this place where warmth was absent and echoes of laughter served as cruel reminders of what he lacked. The ache inside him was relentless, a gnawing emptiness that felt as if it would consume him whole. One fateful afternoon, while exploring the labyrinth of streets surrounding the group home, fortune, in the most unexpected form, beckoned to him. He stumbled upon an abandoned storage unit, its rusted padlock glinting tantalizingly in the sun, like a long-forgotten treasure waiting to be unearthed. Curiosity piqued, Jonah approached it cautiously, his heart pounding with anticipation and fear, a thrilling mixture that sent shivers down his spine. With a hairpin he had pilfered from a pile of forgotten trinkets in his room, he focused intently, using it to pry open the lock as if summoning magic from a distant world. A click echoed, and with a gentle shove, the heavy door creaked open, releasing a musty odor that enveloped him like an old blanket, worn and full of stories long forgotten. Dust motes swirled lazily in the air, catching glimmers of light, each one a tiny fragment of stories begging to be discovered. As he stepped inside, Jonah could hardly believe what lay before him. The dim light revealed rows of boxes stacked high, each one a sentinel of history, steeped in dust. But behind that dust, hints of lost lives and untold stories beckoned. With each cautious step, he felt the stirrings of hope reawaken within him, a flicker of possibility that ignited an ancient spark he thought had long since faded. What if these neglected artifacts contained pieces of his own story, memories left behind, waiting for someone to piece them together? It was a moment that could only be described as monumental, marking the beginning of his journey towards understanding, belonging, and perhaps even healing. Jonah's heart raced with anticipation, a renewed sense of purpose blooming inside him, as he began to sift through the dusty boxes, ready to uncover what lay hidden, believing that in this accidental discovery he may find the fragments of the family he had always wanted to know. If you also feel this ache in your chest, consider liking and subscribing. Someone else might need to hear this story today. As Jonah began to sift through the dusty boxes, he could feel the weight of the world pressing down on him, each box representing not just forgotten items, but echoes of lives once lived, hopes abandoned, and dreams that lingered like whispers of a wind long gone. He pulled out the first box, its corners frayed and its lid barely clinging on, revealing an array of faded photographs, tarnished trinkets, and brittle letters that had withstood the passage of time. Jonah felt his breath catch in his throat as he carefully lifted a photo, the image crinkling under his fingertips, a soft smile, familiar eyes, and warmth spilling from the captured moment. It was a face he recognized, though the details were clouded by the haze of his memories. The memories that haunted him were tinged with shades of love and loss. He held on to fragments of warmth from long ago, images of his mother laughing, a sound like music that had been silenced too soon. Jonah could recall the sweet, familiar scent of her perfume lingering in the air, the feel of her gentle touch as she tucked him in at night, reading stories that transported him to faraway lands. Those days had been marked by a love that wrapped around him like a soft quilt, a fierce protection that became his world until it all unraveled with her inexplicable disappearance. The echoes of her laughter were now ghosts that trailed behind him, and the emptiness left was a yawning chasm, a space that felt insurmountable. As Jonah continued to pore through the contents of the box, he uncovered a yellowed letter, its edges worn and fragile, with words that seemed to tremble under the weight of unspoken emotions. Unfolding it delicately, he traced the loops of the handwriting with his fingers, feeling an odd connection to the past spill into his present. It spoke of dreams, wishes for tomorrow that never came to fruition, and the haunting question of where a loved one had gone. His throat tightened as he read about a mother's love that was caught in a tempest of circumstances, a love that had to endure separation beyond comprehension. Jonah longed to know why and how his little world had fractured into pieces, why he was thrust into the stark and lonely halls of an orphanage, echoing with the footsteps of departing children. In that moment, Jonah recognized the familiar loneliness he felt around other kids in the group home. They were all united by their shared grief, but the connection always felt just out of reach, frayed at the edges by the uncertainty of their pasts. He recalled the cold nights in the orphanage, the silence pressing in like a heavy fog, and days spent in longing. He remembered friends who came and went, faces that felt like fragments of dreams. Then there were the heavy footsteps of caregivers that echoed down hallways, shadows that swept past without a glance his way. In those moments, he often retreated into his own mind, crafting colorful worlds on the pages of his sketchbook, where he could breathe life into dreams and create families that would never abandon him. Yet despite the pain that surged within him, there lingered a glimmer of hope, a small voice that whispered of possibilities just beyond the horizon. Jonah clung to that whisper as he sifted through more boxes, finding a small wooden music box with intricate engravings. When he turned the key, a soft melody filled the air, threading through the dust and memories like sunlight breaking through dark clouds. As the notes danced around him, he felt a warmth that felt almost like a hug, a reminder that beauty could still exist within his scattered past. With each discovery, Jonah's heart raced with anticipation. The more he uncovered about a life he could hardly recall yet desperately wanted to reclaim, the clearer it became that he was not as alone as he had thought. There were hints scattered like breadcrumbs leading him onward, and with each fragment of history unearthed, he began to weave a tapestry of connection in his mind, sketching what could be, a tentative vision of belonging that pushed against the walls of his isolation. But with this growing excitement came a flicker of fear. What if this journey led to a truth he wasn't ready to face? What if the people he hoped to find had already moved on, leaving him behind once again? Each letter and photograph he encountered became both a lifeline and a chain, pulling him toward the light of belonging while anchoring him in the uncertainties of his heart. As the afternoon light began to fade, a weight settled heavily within him, a hopeful tension that felt raw and strong. Jonah looked at the scattered treasures around him, each representing pieces of a puzzle that could lead him to an understanding he had yearned for. He felt stronger, driven by a newfound determination that surged from within. There was a connection waiting to be unearthed, ties to a family he was desperate to know. In that dim storage unit filled with dust and memories, the spark of a journey ignited within him, light pushing through the shadows. This was not just about discovering the past. It was about reclaiming his future, inching closer to a life where he would not be invisible anymore. With renewed vigor and hope coursing through him, Jonah resolved to dig deeper. He wasn't merely searching for objects or forgotten memories. He was searching for an identity, a sense of belonging that he had thought lost forever. Jonah believed that within this jumble of forgotten stories, he could find the thread that would lead him back home. Somewhere within these memories lay the truth of who he was meant to be, the keys to a brighter tomorrow, and the family he had always longed for, waiting just beyond the dust and shadow. As Jonah continued to explore the dusty boxes piled within the storage unit, the excitement that had initially ignited within him deepened into a resolve. Each item he unearthed was like a clue, strands of a thread that wound through time, connecting him back to a life he longed to understand. The old photo album caught his eye once again, its pages crumbling slightly as he turned them, revealing joyful faces frozen in moments that felt distant yet achingly familiar. Among these photographs was a woman with kind brown eyes, a smile that reached her very soul. Recognition flared within Jonah. Was this his mother? The thought brought forth a cascade of emotions, gratitude, longing, and a sadness that threatened to overflow, all mixing together in his heart. Jonah recalled flickers of happiness from his early childhood, soft touches, laughter weaving through sunny days, the scent of his mother's perfume mingling with the warmth of home. Those memories felt both beautiful and heart-wrenching, a poignant reminder of the love he had lost too soon. Every glimpse of the past filled him with questions. Why had she vanished from his life? Why was he left to navigate the cold hallways of the orphanage, encased in silence, as the laughter of others echoed around him? Determined to find answers, Jonah turned his attention to a small wooden music box he found tucked away beneath the letters. The surface was adorned with delicate carvings that spoke of care and beauty. As he wound the key and the melodic notes poured out, a warmth enveloped him. It seemed to whisper of connections that had once existed, of moments threaded together by love. With each note that danced in the air, Jonah felt a flicker of possibility. Perhaps there were still links to the family he yearned for, the love that hadn't been extinguished but merely hidden away. Burrowing deeper into the boxes, his hands grazed the edges of another letter, one that resonated with an elegance as he unfolded it. The flow of the handwriting spoke of heartache, yet within it brimmed a fierce hope for reconnection and reunion, a truth that hinted at the existence of a grandmother on the lookout for him. The realization struck like lightning. Could this family member still be waiting for him? The thought pulsed through him, igniting a fierce determination to find out more. His heart thundered as Jonah moved forward, desperately seeking fragments of identity and belonging. Every piece of this narrative, the photographs, letters, and trinkets, was a building block, weaving a story that felt increasingly real, intimate, and powerful. He knew he was no longer simply wandering through memories. He was actively searching for a future, a family where he could nestle his fractured past and finally belong. Ultimately, Jonah's fingers brushed against another photograph, this time revealing a small house surrounded by vibrant flowers. A surge of recognition flowed through him, the image resonating with warmth and familiarity. The address written on the back felt like a secret map to a place where he might find answers and connections. He had discovered not only remnants of the past, but a potential path leading toward a future filled with promise, a home where he would no longer feel invisible. As the waning sunlight filtered through the dusty unit, casting long shadows behind him, Jonah's resolve solidified. Armed with the key he had found, the letters filled with heartache and hope, and the address hinting at a family home, he felt the anticipation bubbling within him. This journey was more than just piecing together memories. It was about reclaiming an identity lost amidst the shadows. No longer did he have to remain a lonely boy, lost in a whirlpool of memories. He was on the cusp of forging connections that had seemed impossible mere moments ago. Jonah understood now that this was his moment, an opportunity to entwine his past with the potential for a new beginning. A knot of emotions welled within him, a tapestry woven with threads of love, longing, and the possibility of reunification. The shadows that had cloaked his heart began to lift, replaced by a vibrant vision of family life, of laughter shared at a kitchen table, of love woven into everyday moments. He wouldn't tread this lonely path alone any longer. He could walk toward the light that glimmered beyond the threshold of uncertainty. Gathering every ounce of courage, Jonah felt a renewed sense of purpose surge through him as he set the boxes in place, their secrets now carefully stitched into the fabric of his consciousness. He was determined to find his grandmother, to embrace the complexity of their shared story, and in doing so reclaim his own. Each step forward would carve a path toward understanding, connection, and the chance to belong, something he had yearned for amidst the silence of the orphanage. And with that heartwarming thought, Jonah realized he was ready to face the truths that lay ahead, fortified by the love and history he was beginning to uncover for himself. As Jonah stepped out of the dimness of the storage unit, clutching the key and photographs tightly in his hands, he felt as if he were emerging into a new reality. The sun, hanging low on the horizon, painted the world in warm hues of orange and gold, illuminating the path that lay before him as he navigated the quiet streets that separated him from the address he had uncovered. Each footfall bore the weight of hope, anticipation, and a twinge of anxiety that threatened to bubble over. He was about to confront the family he yearned to reconnect with, and with it came the possibility of acceptance or rejection, truths he was both desperate and fearful to face. The skyline of the city blurred in his mind as thoughts raced through his head. Memories of his childhood, The laughter, the warmth, the emptiness swirled in a chaotic dance. He thought of the faces he had seen in photographs, faces that were strangers, yet felt so familiar. What if he recognized his grandmother immediately? What if she too held memories wrapped in the loving embrace of shared blood? But a darker fear whispered in the back of his mind. What if she didn't want to see him? If the years that passed had turned them into distant echoes of what could have been? With each passing moment, he felt the weight of the key in his pocket. Its metal felt cool against his skin. A tangible reminder that he held the means to unlock more than just a door. He carried the potential to unlock truths that had remained hidden for far too long. He quickened his pace, and his breath quickened with it, until he found himself standing in front of a modest house, framed by an overgrown garden that seemed to bloom defiantly. As if it had not forgotten the hand that once tended it, Jonah paused, taking in the sight before him. The house was painted a soft shade of blue, tendrils of ivy climbing up the exterior, windows gleaming with the last rays of the day's sun. The front door was wooden and welcoming, a sign that perhaps someone still inhabited this place, still cared for the remnants of love that lingered in its walls. Swallowing hard, he stepped forward, thoughts swaying between hope and terror. This was it. The moment he had been yearning for was within his grasp, yet he hesitated at the threshold of uncertainty, his heart racing against his ribcage like a songbird, desperate to escape. Gathering his courage, Jonah raised his hand and knocked on the door, the sound echoing like a heartbeat in the quietness surrounding him. Moments felt like an eternity as he stood waiting, each second heavy with anticipation, and then it happened. The door opened, and there she stood. His grandmother was older than Jonah had imagined, her hair adorned with silver strands that danced like wisps in the light. Lines etched on her face hinted at a life full of experience, love, and undoubtedly sorrow. But what took his breath away were her eyes. They were the same warm brown as his mother's, holding within them a mixture of confusion and recognition that sent a jolt of electricity through him. "Who are you?" she asked softly, her voice quavering slightly as she searched his face, her expression melting into surprise. The world around them fell away, time pausing as Jonah felt a connection spark between them, an unspoken understanding of what had transpired between their lives. "I'm Jonah," he found himself saying, his voice steadier than he felt. "Your grandson." The words hung in the air, weighted with the significance of the moment. He had said it. The truth was now out in the open, and he felt as if he were floating, suspended between hope and fear. With a quick intake of breath, his grandmother stepped back, her emotions warring within her. "Jonah," she whispered, her name filling the air like a fragile melody. "I thought I had lost you forever." Jonah could barely process her words as he stepped over the threshold, crossing into the unseen boundaries of family and history. She pulled him into a hug, her warmth enveloping him like a long-lost blanket. As they stood together, the edges of his loneliness began to blur, and through the embrace, he felt threads of connection weaving together, filling the cracks in his soul. Pulling away, her eyes shimmered with unshed tears, a testament to the years separated by silence and distance. "I had to make choices, Jonah. I didn't want to. Your mother, she meant the world to me," she explained, her voice unraveling like a spool of thread as she recounted memories tinged with love and loss. Jonah listened intently, the pain of the past settling like an old fog. It was not new, but familiar. She spoke of her struggles, the moments they had been torn apart, and the longing that had plagued her. "I always hoped to find you, but the years—" Her voice faltered, wrapped in regret and the impact of choices made in times of desperation and fear. Tears streamed down Jonah's cheeks, a bittersweet balm to the years of invisible suffering. Here he was, standing in front of a woman who had shared his blood, one who had unknowingly carried the weight of their shared history. As she spoke, Jonah felt pieces of himself fall into place. The stories ignited within him, binding him to the family he yearned to know. They spent the afternoon taking tentative steps, unveiling layers of emotions that had lain dormant for too long. Moving into the cozy kitchen, they shared cups of herbal tea, rarely leaving each other's side, exchanging stories as the sun cast long shadows in the sinking light. Jonah peeled back the layers of his life in the orphanage, speaking of dreams, and the loneliness that had once consumed him. In return, she revealed the life she had created since parting from her daughter, the regrets and the hopes that had never truly died. By the time twilight draped its velvet cloak around them, the atmosphere had shifted. The air felt charged with the deepening bond, as both Jonah and his grandmother recognized the resilient threads of love that had endured through the years apart. They were no longer strangers but family, bonded by history and a shared longing that could now find healing in their newfound connection. As Jonah looked out the window toward the star-strewn sky, he realized that he was no longer simply that lonely boy behind walls of silence. He was now a grandson, part of a lineage that had waited for him to return. He felt a flicker of hope burn brightly within him, a feeling that signified the beginning of something new, something beautiful, a chance at reconciliation, belonging, and perhaps a future he had long dreamt of but dared not believe in. The following days unfolded with an air of wonder and tenderness that Jonah had never experienced before. The house, with its gentle creaks and familiar scents of spices simmering on the stove, became a sanctuary of sorts. Each morning he would awake to the soft rays of sunlight filtering through the curtains, a reminder that he had finally stepped into a reality where he was not alone. Days turned into weeks, yet the feeling of newness never dulled. It blossomed, it expanded, and filled the corners of his heart where emptiness had long resided. Jonah's grandmother, whom he now lovingly called Grandma May, embraced him with a warmth that felt like his mother's touch, comforting and familiar, yet tinged with an uncertain past. They kept the conversation flowing, sharing stories over cups of tea and freshly baked cookies, laughter intermingled with moments of palpable silence when unspoken words danced on the tips of their tongues. Grandma May's kitchen transformed into the heart of their connection, a place where memories could be revived and praised while still honoring the hurt they had both experienced. One evening, as they sat together, Jonah spoke about the dreams that had kept him company during his solitary years, about the lonely nights in the orphanage, where he would close his eyes and imagine a family wrapped around him, as real as the walls that contained him. In response, Grandma May revealed the depths of her remorse, the choices she had made, and the love she had fought to maintain despite the harsh realities of life. "I always worried about you, Jonah. I did what I thought was best at the time. I was so afraid of losing everything," she confessed, her voice trembling. "But I lost you instead." Jonah listened intently, each story weaving into the fabric of their shared reality. He hadn't just been a child lost to the world, he was a boy whose fate had intertwined with the hopes and fears of generations. As meaningful as the recollections were, the conversations also became their foundation for a new relationship, one that allowed healing and growth to flourish. Days melted into a routine that felt comforting and wholly new. Jonah started taking walks with Grandma May through the neighborhood, discovering the charming parks where he daydreamed about folks entwined with love and laughter. They explored the vibrant library that helped ignite Jonah's hunger for stories, their imaginations running wild as they delved into the tales that lay within dusty tomes. Each novel became a bridge, connecting him further to Grandma May and nurturing the roots of their family tree that had lain dormant for far too long. One breezy afternoon, as they strolled hand in hand through a nearby park bursting with blooming flowers, Jonah caught a glimpse of something that stirred his heart. A small group of children playing together, laughter ringing out like music. In that moment, he felt a longing deeper than before, a yearning for the simplicity of childhood friendships, for the joy of being seen and accepted. He turned to Grandma May, a thought forming in his mind. "Could I invite some kids over?" he asked carefully, the question tinged with both excitement and trepidation. Grandma May's eyes sparkled, and a smile spread across her face. "Of course. We could have a little gathering here, and you could share some of those stories of yours." Her joy radiated like sunlight, illuminating the shadows of uncertainty that occasionally clouded Jonah's thoughts. What if no one wanted to play with him? What if he remained the outsider, still invisible despite being in a home filled with warmth? But the flicker of hope in Grandma May's eyes reflected a sentiment that resonated within him, the knowledge that he could forge connections anew. Encouraged by this budding sense of belonging, Jonah took the initiative to reach out to a few classmates from the local school, where he had recently enrolled. The idea of inviting them over felt like taking a leap into the unknown, but Jonah was determined. Through a series of carefully penned notes and tentative invitations, he managed to gather a small group for a weekend gathering. When the day arrived and the laughter and chatter filled the home, Jonah's heart soared with exhilaration. This wasn't just the realization of a dream. It was a time for him to embrace the boy he had always wanted to be, surrounded by faces that could grow familiar. The air was filled with the aroma of Grandma May's baking, cookies warm and fresh from the oven. Jonah found himself introducing new friends to the tales he had spun over the years, stories of adventure and valor that drew them in like moths to a flame. Each laugh exchanged, and each moment spent together transformed Jonah's previous isolation into a nourishing sense of belonging. No longer was he defined by his past experiences. He was a storyteller, a friend, and most importantly, a grandson who had learned to hope. Yet, as the fun-filled evening began to wind down, something shifted within Jonah's heart. He understood now that family connections were not just created from blood. Weaving new ties and nurturing friendships held equal importance. He wanted to carry forward Grandma May's legacy of love, not only as a grandson but also as someone who could offer kindness to those who felt unseen. Standing side by side with Grandma May as they watched the children play, he turned to her and said, "I think I'd like to keep this going. Help make new friends, share stories, like we have." With a soft chuckle, Grandma May wrapped her arm around his shoulders. "You're a natural, Jonah. If there's anything you've inherited from me, it's that gift of connection. Let's make sure your story is one of love, hope, and togetherness." In that perfect moment beneath the tapestry of stars, as laughter echoed and new friendships flourished, Jonah understood that life was about weaving the past into a glorious tapestry imbued with hope, resilience, and love. He was walking a new path, a thoughtful journey that was his alone to shape, but one he would no longer have to walk in the shadows. Jonah had transformed his loneliness into a spirit of unity, graciously embracing those around him while finding strength in the familial bonds he had rediscovered and forged anew. As he took a deep breath, breathing in the spices of freshly baked cookies and the sounds of laughter, he whispered softly, "Thank you for staying until the end." His heart swelled with gratitude. The journey had only just begun, but it was already full of promise, the kind of promise that spoke of belonging, of family, of all the stories yet to be told. As the weeks flowed into beautiful moments of connection, Jonah's life transformed, enriched by laughter and the warmth of friendship. The backyard, once merely a stretch of grass, became their gathering place, a sanctuary for storytelling, sharing dreams, and forming bonds that felt as strong as family. Every afternoon after school, it was filled with the excited chatter of children and the delightful aroma of cookies wafting from Grandma May's kitchen. One particularly sunny afternoon, inspired by the joy swirling around him, Jonah proposed starting a storytelling club. "Let's gather every Friday," he suggested, his voice bubbling with enthusiasm. "We can share our tales and create a space for imagination." His friends exchanged excited glances, each eagerly agreeing, their faces lighting up with approval. They quickly brainstormed ideas, and Jonah felt an electrifying energy pulse through him. This was a venture he felt destined to bring to life. The first meeting of the club unfolded like a splendid tapestry of laughter and creativity. The backyard, adorned with twinkling fairy lights, served as a lighthouse for their imaginations to sail upon. Jonah took center stage, his heart racing with a delightful mix of excitement and nerves. He confidently embarked on an adventure about a brave knight venturing into enchanted lands to confront a menacing dragon. The children listened intently, their eyes wide as they roamed within the world he created through words. As he concluded the tale, the yard erupted in applause, laughter echoing through the night air like music. Jonah felt an exhilarating rush. He wasn't just telling a story. He was building connections. With each Friday that passed, the storytelling club blossomed, transforming mere narratives into deeper expressions of empathy and understanding. Each child took turns weaving their tales. Some ventured into fantastical realms, while others shared personal anecdotes tinged with maturity. They discovered that storytelling was not just about creating fantasy, but also about emotionally linking their experiences, painting a mutual understanding of their lives. Jonah's heart swelled with pride, realizing how their shared stories served as the foundation for lasting friendships. Motivated by the power of their storytelling, they decided to share their gift beyond their own circle. Jonah suggested reaching out to local shelters and libraries, bringing their imaginative narratives to those who felt isolated. "Let's share our stories, create smiles, and connect with others," he said, hope lighting up his eyes. The response was overwhelmingly positive, and Jonah's heart blossomed as they prepared for their outreach, eager to brighten lives through the simple joy of storytelling. On the day of their first visit to a nearby shelter, the world felt pregnant with anticipation. Jonah stood before a small audience, his friends gathered behind him, hearts synchronized in purpose. As they shared stories filled with laughter and encouragement, Jonah observed expressions shift, faces brightening with joy, eyes sparkling with delight. He felt deeply grateful for this newfound purpose, knowing they were crafting connections, weaving joy into the fabric of lives that may have felt too mundane or heavy. After a few successful visits, as they drove home one evening, Jonah and Grandma May shared quiet reflections about their experiences. He turned to her, his eyes shining. "Grandma, this is what I want to do. I want to tell stories and create bridges for people to connect." Seeing her grandson's passion bloom filled Grandma May's heart with warmth. Yet, that night, something deeper flickered behind her eyes. "Jonah, I want you to know that I am proud of the person you are becoming. However, there are times when I reflect upon my past, the choices I made and the regrets I carry. It weighs on me even amidst this happiness." Her voice wavered, revealing a vulnerability Jonah had yet to see. The weight of her honesty resonated within him. "But you've given me a chance at something beautiful," he responded earnestly. "Your love matters more than anything." Grandma May gazed at him, tears glimmering in her eyes, understanding the bond they had forged together through shared struggles and love. With time, their connection only deepened, and as Jonah flourished in friendships and storytelling, he kept reminding himself about the importance of his family ties, forged through the heartbeats of understanding. Underneath the fabric of vibrant stories, the real essence of love as a guiding force echoed within him. On yet another crisp, starlit night, Jonah gathered his friends for storytelling in the backyard, now drenched in the magic they consistently created. He stood among them, heart brimming with gratitude. "Tonight I want to share something significant," he began, a sense of vulnerability softening his voice. "I spent so long feeling unseen and unheard, but now, thanks to all of you, I'm surrounded by a family that welcomes raw honesty and connection. Your stories matter." As he spoke, the faces surrounding him lit up with understanding. They exchanged knowing glances, the shared love and experiences woven tightly into their collective hearts. Jonah realized that the more he opened up, the closer they all felt, knitting the very fabric of their burgeoning family ties tighter. As they took turns reflecting on their adventures and sharing stories infused with laughter, Jonah recognized the blend of vulnerability and joy that colored their interactions. Every story revealed a glimpse of the ties that linked their understanding of family, not just through shared blood but through kindness and resilience. With the chilly air surrounding them, Jonah concluded the evening, "Remember, wherever we come from and whatever we've faced, we're here for each other. This isn't just a club, it's about us being family in every sense." The warmth of their shared experience echoed in responses, casual laughter, and soft smiles before they dispersed into the night. Under the night sky, Jonah sighed contentedly, marveling at how far he had come. Life had offered him threads of renewal, and through storytelling and family bonds, he grasped the art of weaving a tapestry filled with love, connection, and hope. In perfect harmony, he whispered quietly, "Thank you for staying until the end." His heart brimmed with gratitude for a journey that held so much promise, each day a new chapter in the story of his life. The journey had come alive in vibrant color, woven through kindness and togetherness, echoing with the promise of all the stories yet to be told. As the weeks turned into months, Jonah's storytelling club flourished, becoming a cornerstone of his newfound existence. The backyard transformed into a hub of creativity and compassion, where every meeting was infused with laughter, vulnerability, and the spirit of connection. Each Friday night, under a mesmerizing blanket of stars, they would gather, ready to share stories that resonated not only with their imaginations, but also with their hearts. One chilly evening, as Jonah prepared for their gathering, he noticed a subtle shift in the air. The laughter felt a bit heavier, a sense of unspoken concern lingering among his friends. When everyone settled down, Jonah sensed the need for something deeper. "Tonight, let's share our fears," he suggested gently, his voice embracing the vulnerable energy in the air. "We all have them, and by sharing, we can face them together." The transformation was immediate. One by one, Jonah's friends opened up about their insecurities. A girl named Lily spoke first, her voice shaking slightly, revealing a fear of being abandoned, a haunting echo of her own past. "Sometimes I feel like I won't be enough, that people will leave," she admitted. Jonah watched as the other children leaned in, wrapping her in a cocoon of understanding and empathy. They voiced their fears, battle scars of childhood often left unspoken. Jonah, feeling the weight of shared vulnerability, hesitated but ultimately decided to share his own fear. "I worry that I'll lose all of you," he confessed, eyes glistening. "You're my family now, and I'm scared that one day I'll wake up and everything will change." In that moment, a wave of solidarity surged through the circle, enveloping Jonah and his friends. They reminded each other of their commitments, their routines of togetherness, pledging not only to uplift one another, but to stand firm against their fears as a united front. As the discussions deepened, Jonah couldn't shake the feeling that they were not just storytelling anymore. They were actively shaping their identities through this club. The tales they spun were woven from the threads of truth, where their collective fears shifted into powerful new narratives, outfitted with courage and hope. They began to see the power their stories could wield. Revealing vulnerabilities led to healing and connection. The next meeting saw them launching into an inspired storytelling session, where each child created characters who faced fears much like their own. Jonah conjured up a brave young warrior who traversed the shadowy forests filled with monsters that represented their collective anxieties. The warrior battled against each monster, with strength fueled by love and friendship, and as Jonah narrated, he felt the energy radiating from his friends, their eyes wide and engaged. In the weeks that followed, Jonah noticed something beautiful transpiring within their circle. With each honest exchange, each shared story of courage, barriers began to fade. Trust deepened, creating bonds that transcended past struggles. They became an intricate tapestry threaded with resilience. Together, they embraced community service, taking their newly forged bonds into the world beyond their backyard, sharing stories of hope at local shelters and joining various initiatives to uplift those still battling solitude and despair. Jonah understood that this journey was larger than him. It was about creating spaces where every voice mattered and where those who had long felt invisible could finally be seen. The Storytelling Club became a beacon of light in their small town, symbolizing inclusivity, an ever-growing family formed not just through blood, but through shared experiences, love, and understanding. As the seasons shifted and the air grew crisp, Jonah took time to reflect on how far he had defied the odds to create this profound transformation. With Grandma May's unwavering support guiding him, he now stood among friends who felt more like family than mere acquaintances. They had forged something invaluable together, stories interwoven with values of courage and commitment, ensuring that no one felt alone. One evening, while preparing for another gathering, Jonah took a moment alone in the backyard. He looked up at the stars, each one shining brilliantly like the friendships he had nurtured. A deep sense of gratitude filled him. They had transformed their fears into strength, cultivated connections that resonated far beyond simple camaraderie. They crafted a tapestry of love, togetherness, and hope that would last a lifetime. He knew in his heart that they were all storytellers, but more importantly, they were family. With that thought, he whispered, "Thank you for staying until the end." A joyful smile crept onto his face, knowing that there would always be more stories to tell, more laughter to share, and new adventures waiting just on the horizon, ready to unfold as they ventured forth into the world together.